Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and my team selection video for Game Week 26. We have a lot of things to get through today because I am going to do the Manager of the Week segment for this video, which I usually do on the FPL Scope podcast. And not only that, we have two Managers of the Week, two people that finished on 120 points each. So I'm going to feature both of their teams in this video right now. So yeah, let's just get started with my Game Week 25 score before we move into the free hit teams and also the Managers of the Week. And then we finally have my own Game Week 26 plans at the end of the video, basically. So yeah, when it comes to Game Week 25, finally a pretty good game week for me. And that's mostly down to having triple captain activated on Salah. He got 60 points in total, 9 points less than what he did last game week when I decided to not use the free hit or use the triple captaincy chip on him. And honestly, I still don't really regret the decision. I think he had easier matches against Wolves and Aston Villa, but he just managed to get a lot of points against Everton and Bournemouth the week before. But either way, 9 points isn't the end of the world. I'm really happy with 60 points from my triple captain. That's what I would have wanted. Like, if I was offered that before the season, I would have taken that. So really happy that Salah got a lot of points. And even so, didn't really get that many points for slot as the assistant manager for most other people. So all in all, pretty happy with the triple captaincy chip. And I still have all my chips left, apart from that, including the assistant manager chip that I will use probably between Game Week 31 and 33, or I might save it for the end of the season for some more table bonus matches. But yeah, all in all, pretty happy with the game week because of Salah mostly. Also Trent Alexander-Arnold with 13 points as well. Kind of got the most out of my two Liverpool assets there, except for the third Liverpool asset being Gakpo, who I kept, and he didn't start either game and had to be subbed off for my team. And sadly, I had Castagne first bench, he got 2 points, and I left Cunha on my last bench spot, who got 9 points. So another lesson learned. I don't know why I didn't have the striker as my first bench player. I usually do that, but for some reason, I guess I was just down on Cunha for some reason, or I don't know. I don't really know what got into me there, but I really should have Cunha first bench, and I would have had 9 points coming off the bench for Gakpo, which would have been really nice. So yeah, that's the one sad thing. The other thing was the fact that I was close to having enough money in the bank to get in Ethan Waneri rather than Dango, and then being able to do Gakpo to Watkins. If I had that 0.1 extra, or actually if I had done the transfer a day before when Sar was higher, had a higher price, I would have been able to do that move, which would have been better for this game week at least. But for the long term, I think Dango is going to be a better fit than Waneri, and I don't think Watkins is going to be like the best long-term pick either. So for the short term, that would have given me even more points this game week. But for the long term, I think still I'm going to come up on top when it comes to that decision as well. But Dango at least came in, got 7 points, scored a goal for me. Really happy with that. 7 points is enough for me at least from a new signing. Also did the goalkeeper transfer, finally got rid of Sanchez, got rid of my Chelsea goalkeeper, and brought in another Chelsea goalkeeper in Kepa Arrizabalaga, who now plays for Bournemouth on loan. And I thought he was going to keep a clean sheet against Southampton, but then they conceded like their one chance against Southampton, and he only ended up with 3 points, Kepa. So a bit of a disappointment there. For the rest of the team, I got 6 points from Gabriel, clean sheet from him, that was nice. Munoz with only 1 point the week after I had benched his 11 points in Game Week 24. Also kind of sad to see. Rodgers with 2 blanks in a row, so 4 points for him in a double game week. Not the best. And Mbeumo blanked against West Ham despite having a lot of chances and being close to getting both assists and goals. So that was a bit unlucky. And then Palmer and Isak also blanking for most teams, basically. Both of them got 2 points. They've been sort of more disappointing lately than they have been in the past, and people are looking to sell, or people already sold Isak for Watkins this past game week, which I could have done as well, to be fair. But I think Isak's going to be fine long term. I think Palmer short term, especially with Leicester and Southampton at home coming up pretty soon, I think he's pretty fine as well. Gakpo, that's a different story. I have to decide what to do with him. But I already have Cunha as well. I'm happy that I have Cunha in general in my team, and he looks really nice now for the next few game weeks. So I'm pretty happy to have him in my squad as well. But 103 points in total. 2 transfers made. I still have 1 transfer extra, so I have 2 free transfers for next game week as well. Pretty happy to have that, and also up to 220k in rank now after dropping down like below 300k for a moment there. So yeah, pretty happy about the green arrow and the higher rank, and hopefully I can kick on and do better things from this point onwards, basically. So yeah, that was my Game Week 25 score. Let's see how my free hit team compared. And my free team got 1 point less with 102 points, but that's not really that surprising considering I didn't use triple captain on the free hit drafts because you can't use free hit and triple captain at the same time. So only 40 points from Salah in this case, only. But on the other side, I had Watkins in this free hit draft, And I also had hpxeri as well, like those two players that I did mention that I wanted to bring into my own team but just couldn't afford for some reason. So hpxeri actually came in as a sub for Gakpo, who I did have faith in, but he didn't play obviously, 0 points from him. Rodgers as well was a bit of a disappointment in midfield with 4 points, but Trent in defense with 13 points was huge. Cloyford with 5 points, a bit less than Dango, but I thought I was going to go with the penalty taker and that would help me more, but Dango was the better pick, which is good for me and my own squad because I picked Dango in my own squad long term. But for this game week, I thought Cloyford would be better. And then the rest of the team, Wissa 2 points again, another Brentford player that was kind of lucky to not get more points against West Ham. Had a goal disallowed. He was pretty close to scoring as well, and he's just been blanking lately despite having a lot of good chances. So yeah, only 2 points from him. Double blank from Mertens, getting 4 points in goal as well. Kirkis conceded just like Kiparis Balaga did against Southampton, so he got 2 points. And that's pretty much the team here as well. On the bench, I had Chilwell and Munoz as like bench options in defense, but they did concede in their game, and they only got 1 point each. Chilwell and Munoz there as well. So yeah, that was the free draft. 102 points in total, just inside the 1 million in terms of game week rank. Takes me up to 1,728 points in total for all my free hit drafts this season. Because if you've seen this channel before, I do a free hit draft every single game week and add up the points basically. And that added up has been 1,728 points so far, and that would have been an overall rank of around 57k, which is pretty good, but it's still using unlimited transfers every week, so I guess it's not that good either, but yeah, it's pretty good. It's better than my current rank at least, so that's something, I guess. But yeah, that was the free draft from this past game week, but let's take a look at the manager that had the most points, or joint most points in the FPL Scope Mini League this past week, and that is none other than Pudasaini Parshuram, if I pronounce that correctly, with 124 points, but -4 from doing 2 free transfers with only 1 free transfer available. So that took this manager of the week up to 1.6 million overall current rank, which isn't the best, I guess, but the team's looking pretty good. Assistant manager thing worked out. Moyes to Emery, he got 14 points from that draw against Liverpool. Moyes got 18 points, or not 18, he got 8 points from his win, so it wasn't entirely necessary to do that transfer, but he did gain some points from it, so that was nice. Also did Isak to Watkins for a whopping 13 points minus the 4 points, so like a 9-point gain from that despite the -4, which is also huge, I guess. But I think Isak is going to be someone that you want back in your team at some point, maybe from getting 30. Maybe that's what you're looking at. Maybe you're trying to do like a wildcarding every 30 and you'll bring back Isak back then. That could be the best case scenario, or like how you should like order your season. But I think Isak's going to come into play at some point at least. But yeah, for the rest of the team, Flecken with 10 points. That was a huge score from this team that helped differentiate this manager from the rest. 10 points from Flecken, which has been a long time coming. Both Flecken and Luis Diaz in midfield as well. 2 players that have been kind of disappointing for a long while, but both of them delivered this game week for those of you that have been really patient with those 2 guys. So yeah, congrats on both those guys' points. Trent with 13 points, Gabriel with 6 points, just like in my team. Olaina with only 1 point, sadly, for this manager, and 2 points from Mikolenko. Could have been better. Savinho with 6 points. Savinho has been pretty good for like the last like 6-7 game weeks. Bruno Fernandes with 2 points as well, and this is the player that I'm like sort of down on, I guess, in FPL, because he has to play more defensively now, has to play more central midfield, and hasn't been like that great FPL prospect that he was earlier in the season. I had him for a couple game weeks this season. I was really happy with him, and I think I bought him at the right time, sold him at the right time. Really happy with him, but his current role and with the way that Man United are playing currently, he's just a bit of a dud in your team, sadly. Palmer with a blank here as well. Salah with 40 points as the captain and 15 points from Watkins up front, and Emery with the 14 points as the assistant manager. On the bench, Henderson in goal, so you have a double goalkeeper duo there with Henderson and Flecken. And Ndiaye, who is injured and was out for this game, got 0 points. Joe Pedro and Vandenberg also on the bench. Vandenberg got injured, so that's another injury issue. So a couple injury issues, a couple of like Bruno Fernandes, not quite sure about him long term. So there are some players that aren't like the best for this team, but for this game week at least, it worked out. 124 points, -4, 120 in total. That's really good in general. So yeah, I think you can kick on and do pretty well in this season. You have a lot of chips left: wildcard, triple captain, bench boost, and free hit. So plenty of things to do going forward. So let's take a look at your current team for Game Week 26 and see what you can do going forward as well with your team. And basically, you don't really have many options on the bench. Vandenberg is a slight doubt after his injury issues playing against Leicester. That would have been a nice player to have rather than Olaina, for example. So if Vandenberg is ready to play, you could start him over Aina. But I think Aina is still like a decent shout. Like he gets those random 15-pointers every now and then. So I think he's like still a pretty decent player. Joao Pedro as well, not really the best player. Even though he plays Southampton, I just wouldn't start him because I don't think he's going to start. So he's a bit of a dud as well. You also have Emery against Chelsea at home, which is not the easiest fixture. But honestly, I don't really see that many good managers or assistant managers this week. Probably if you want to do a manager move rather than doing the striker move that I have put out as a potential transfer for you, I would probably do Emery to Glasner if you're going to chase that table bonus points, because I think getting a draw at least away to Fulham could be in the cards for Crystal Palace. I think that's certainly within reach. Even beating them and getting like a super high score is also super totally. It's easily achievable. So I think maybe you should just forget about the Beto thing, because my initial thoughts was doing Ndiaye to Beto, who's really cheap. He's 4.9 and looking really, really good now and has really good fixtures. So I think Beto's a fantastic prospect. Bringing in him and then benching Savinho, who has Liverpool, which is a pretty tough game, or benching Luis Diaz, for example, who could also be benched for this game for Liverpool. Personally, I think that would be preferable, because I think Emery against Chelsea still has a decent chance, even though it's not a table bonus game. And it is kind of a tough game, but you could also just go for the manager move of doing Emery to Glasner. I think that would be my favorite move in terms of the table bonus managers. I'm not quite sure about like the transfers to do Arteta and stuff like that. I don't think the upside is there to do those transfers. I don't think like Arteta and Emery is that big of a difference, or Slot and Emery is that big of a difference. So I don't think I would do that when it comes to the manager change. But I think the table bonus is enticing enough to potentially do that instead. So yeah, what do you want to do? Ndiaye to Beto and get more depth in your team, especially seeing as your bench is pretty weak so far. Or if you want to do a manager move, that's basically up to you. So all in all, I think the team is looking pretty good. Flecking against Leicester is nice to have. Mikolenko against Man United, I think that's also a really nice player to have. Gabriel and Trent, you have to play them every single game week. Salah and Palmer also really good. I did mention Fernandes. I'm not a huge fan of him in FPL, but he's playing Everton, which at least historically has been a good fixture for Bruno Fernandes, but we know Everton are really good now, so you could also potentially look to sell Bruno Fernandes. But currently, for this game week, apart from the Bournemouth players, maybe you want to sell Bruno Fernandes and bring in Kluivert, for example. That could be a good move as well, so maybe that's what you want to do. But I think Bruno Fernandes against Everton, I've seen that fixture in the past, and it's worked out pretty well for him, so I'm not sure if I would sell him for this game, but you could definitely sell Bruno Fernandes as well and bring in Kluivert. That's like a third potential option for you this week. So yeah, Luis Diaz and Savinho, not the best players playing against each other either, so I don't think the team is particularly strong this week. That's why I would probably prefer to do like a player transfer rather than a manager transfer, because I don't think there's that much upside from selling Emery and bringing in someone else, apart from maybe Glasner, who I think could get a result against Fulham away. But it is Fulham away. Fulham have just won 2 straight games that have been really impressive, so yeah, I'm not sure about the manager move either. So I would probably do either Ndiaye to Beto and benching Diaz or Savinho, or I would do Bruno Fernandes to Kluivert if you want to chase that upside with Kluivert, who I'm going to get to eventually as like a really good player to have this game week. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Also, when it comes to Game Week 29 and if you should free hit or not, I think it's pretty obvious for you. With no, you have no players from Newcastle. You have only Henderson from Crystal Palace. You have only Watkins from Aston Villa, who you could easily sell in that game week as well. You don't have the best bench, so that's the one worry when it comes to having enough players to field the team for game week 29. But you don't really have many players blanking at all. So you have the triple Liverpool as well blanking. So that's maybe like the other thing you have to deal with. So maybe Luis Diaz is someone that you could sell instead of Bruno Fernandes as well. But he also has Southampton in game week 28, which I wouldn't really go against either. So I think you're in a decent position to not free hit in 29, but you could also consider free hitting in 29 as well. So you have to keep that in mind for future game weeks, basically. So yeah, a lot of things you could do with your team. I don't think you should wildcard or anything like that yet. I think that's better served to do in game week 30 onwards, because that's going to help you a lot from getting past game week 29 without any issues. So yeah, I would save the chip for game week 30 when it comes to wildcard. When it comes to free hit, maybe look into free hitting in 29. That could be the best case. If so, you could wildcard even later as well. Or you could just bring in a different, like some key players for those game weeks. So we have game week 26, game week 27, game week 28, and game week 29. You have 4 transfers basically to get your team ready. And currently you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with Joe Pedro players playing, so you have more than enough transfers to field an 11 for that game week as well. So yeah, I would probably try to navigate Game Week 29 without using a free hit if I were you as well. So those are my thoughts for your team, both long-term and short-term for this next upcoming game week. I hope you do well. I wish you luck, and I think you can kick on and potentially beat your best rank from 2021 or 2020/2021, where you got 513k overall. I think you could do better than that this season, especially if you keep watching this very YouTube channel. If you are currently, I hope so at least. But yeah, so that was the first manager of the week. Let's move on to the next manager of the week, who got 120 points just straight without -4. So you still end up with 120, which is the highest score this week in the FPL Scope Mini League. If you want to be featured on the podcast, just like Bukola Atanda and the other manager, who I can't remember the name off the top of my head. If you want to be manager this week on this YouTube channel, you can join the FPL Scope Mini League with the league code hpxeri. And if you get the highest score in a game week, you get featured on a video just like these two managers are right now. So let's go into Bukola Atanda's team. 2 free transfers made, no -4s required here. Gordon and Wissa to Dango and Watkins. Pretty brave transfers, I think, because Gordon against City, I thought that was a pretty good fixture, and Wissa against West Ham, I thought that was a pretty good fixture, but Dango got 7 points, Watkins got 15 points. That's a lot of gained points there. 5 points from Gordon to Dango, 13 points from Wissa to Watkins, so 18 points earned from those 2 free transfers. That's really, really nice. When it comes to the rest of the team, Sells and goal with 3 points, not the best, but double Arsenal with the 2 clean sheets, 6 points and 6 points each for Gabriel and Timber. The 13 points from Trent, which is really nice. The 40 points from Salah as your main captain. 2 points from Palmer, as always. Rodgers with 4 points in the double. Bongo with 7. And then up front with Watkins with 15. Isak with 2 only, but then Wood with 9. And Wood has just been so good this season. So yeah, nice to see you, or not nice to see you get rewarded, because Wood was kind of lucky to get those points. But for you, it's really nice to have Wood, because he has just been fantastic this season and keeps being really, really good. So yeah, just keep him in your team. You're lucky to have him. I haven't had him all season, and I'm very jealous of anyone that has Wood, basically. But yeah, for some reason I can't get Wood. I don't know why. But when it comes to the manager, you had Arne Slot, who got 13 points. So not much between the Slot and Emery managers, but at least you saved yourself a transfer there. You didn't have to swap Slot from game week 24 to the game week 25. So all in all, I think you're in a pretty good position there. Even though you are down a couple points from those who went from Moyes to Emery, because they got more points with Moyes than Slot did last game week. But yeah, on the bench, Fabianski, who's a dud on the bench. Ismail Assar, who's sort of like, he's still playing and he's still looking like decent, but he's just not getting points. Robinson, who's like a fantastic pick. I think he's really good to have. I think your defense is really strong with Trent, Gabriel, Timber, Robinson, and Mikolenko. You have 5 pretty good defenders there in general. Mikolenko as the last player in your team as well. And you as well only use 1 chip so far. That's the assistant manager chip. You have the triple captain left. You have the bench boost left. Free hit left. Wildcard left. A lot of possibilities going forward this season. Probably give me 32 with Isak as your triple captain would be the best choice. And then free hit when it comes to your Game Week 29 team. We're actually going to get into that in the next frame. But first, let's talk about your ranks as well. Like, that was the main thing sticking out to me. You're second in the FPL Scope Mini League in total now. Rank overall 2,531. Absolutely amazing. Your best rank also showing that you're a fantastic manager, 585. That's higher than I've ever had in FPL as well. In 1920, that's absolutely amazing. Last season, 87k, almost inside the top 50k as well, which is really, really nice. So we're talking about someone who's a really good FPL manager here in Bukola Atanda. So yeah, you clearly know what you're doing, and I think your team is really strong as well, with like not many bad players at all. Like, I think it's basically just Fabianski and Sar that I'm not totally enamored by, and maybe Rodgers like for the long term. But other than that, I think your team is just super strong. So yeah, kind of jealous of both your rank, your best rank, and your current points, and everything in between. So yeah, it's looking really, really good. But let's look ahead to the next game week and see what you have and what you could potentially do to do even better, or not even better. It's probably going to be hard to top 120 points, but do really well next week as well. So this is your Game Week 26 team, and you have 1 free transfer. So you have a couple of decisions there. You could choose just to keep Rodgers and hope that he does well against Chelsea. He hasn't really performed lately in the league, but that could change potentially. Or you could sell him for Waneri, who looks absolutely fantastic, especially last game against Leicester. Looked really, really good. And now playing against West Ham, who are really struggling. I can say that as a West Ham fan. It's going to be a pretty good game for Waneri to play in that game, I think. Or you could do the transfer move with the manager. You could do Slot to Glasner. Honestly, I don't think I would do it. I think Slot and Liverpool have the upper hand against City, especially after watching City against Real Madrid in the Champions League. I think Liverpool could sort of do the same. Like, I wouldn't be too surprised to see Liverpool win like 3 or 4-0 here. So I think for you or anyone else with Slot as their manager now, I think I would just keep him and save the transfer and hope that Liverpool do well against City, because you can honestly get quite a lot of points in that game. Like, I don't think it's like the toughest game for Liverpool. It could also go wrong. It could be a loss or a draw. But if that happens, you just have to live with it, I guess, because Liverpool are also kind of struggling lately. But I think I would just do the outfield transfer. But it just depends. How much better do you think Waneri is than Rodgers? How much of a chance do you think he has outscoring Rodgers this week? I think that's what you have to decide between. You could also just stand pat and have the team that you have now, because like I said, you have a really strong team in general. You have to bench, like in my instance here, or like my suggestion here, you've benched Robinson against Crystal Palace at home. You could potentially start him and bench Rodgers and just stick with your team and just see what happens, because Waneri is sort of like a short-term move as well, so maybe you don't want to lock yourself into him either. You could do that as well. So plenty of options, a really strong team in general. Ismail Assar is also someone that I would potentially look to sell at some point, especially if you're looking to not free hit in 29. It makes sense to sell him and get rid of him, because currently you have double Liverpool, you have double Aston Villa, and you have one Palace player, so you could easily go through Game Week 29 without a free hit as well if you want to. Or you could use a free hit, because free hit 29 looks really good on paper, at least when it comes to the team you can field in that game week. So you could do that as well and just keep Rodgers and Watkins and Sarr and those guys, I guess, and Isak and the Liverpool players, and just keep them beyond Game Week 29 as well with the free hit in 29. So you could do that as well. But for this game week, I think I would probably lean towards, I don't know, I probably would keep Rodgers. Initially, I thought that you could do Slot to Glasner, and that would give you enough money to go from Rodgers to Kluivert, which I like better than Waneri. And I think Kluivert is really, really good, which I'll get to with my own team. So that is something you could do if you're not like against doing -4s. But currently in my own season, I haven't done a single -4 this whole season, which at some points have been to the detriment of my team. Some points it's been beneficial for me. So yeah, if you don't want to do -4s, then I would do just a one transfer of Rodgers to Waneri, or do nothing and keep your transfers. Or if you are like fine with doing a -4, then I think Slot to Glasner and then Rodgers to Kluivert could be good, but it's also really risky because Rodgers and Slot could easily outscore Glasner and Kluivert. But I think Kluivert is quite the upgrade over Rodgers, especially this game week against Wolverhampton, which I'll get to with my own team, because spoilers, I'm bringing in Kluivert myself. But yeah, when it comes to your team, really, really good rank. All that stuff is looking fantastic. Hopefully you can push on and be inside the top 10k, or top 10k even, top 1k is what I mean. Maybe even you can beat your own personal bests from 1920 with 585 overall, which would be amazing. So all the best luck this season. I hope you do well. And yeah, just remember to take Game Week 29 into consideration. And yeah, I you know what you're doing. I don't really have to tell you anything, because you're a really good manager. So yeah, congratulations on all your success, basically. But yeah, that's you out of the way. That's the Manager of the Week out of the way. Let's take a look at what I think is the ideal team to have in Game Week 26 with my free hit draft for Game Week 26 right here. So this is my team. I'll go through it from goalkeeper onwards all the way down to my forwards and then my bench. In goal for Brugge against Southampton, I'm going to back against Southampton, even though they do keep scoring and deleting my clean sheets. So I think for Brugge is the best goalkeeper this game week. I think the Arsenal double up with Gabriel and Timber, like we just saw, is really, really good this game week. So yeah, I think that's a really nice duo there. But you have to also remember that Ben White is potentially going to play for Arsenal, so maybe that does something with Timber and his playing time. Can't be too sure about that, but I think Timber still is pretty secure. I think even if Ben White plays on the right, I think Timber will play on the left, even though Lewis Skelly has been fantastic this season. So you have to keep that in mind as well when it comes to Timber. Maybe he's not as secure as before, but he's been terrific this season, I think. So I don't think he's going to lose his place personally. So yeah, I really like the double up with Gabriel and Timber against West Ham at home. I think that's one of the best fixtures this week. Then I also have Pedro Porro as like a nice differential guy on the defensive side as well. I think he's like a pretty good player to have in your team. Ipswich away, like you don't really know what's going to happen in that game. Spurs looked better, I guess, against Manchester United, but it is Manchester United, but it's also Ipswich, so it's hard to know, or hard to like figure out what's going to happen in that game. But I think Pedro Porro could get attacking points. He could get defensive points. Spurs have looked at least better defensively lately, and they have Vicario back now, who's a lot better in terms of keeping clean sheets than their previous goalkeepers, or Forster and Kinski. So I think Pedro Porro is actually a pretty good upside player this week as well. When it comes to midfield, Salah in there as your captain. I think that's a bit of a no-brainer. I'm going to get to that in my own team as well. And Boema against Leicester, I think that's a really good fixture, or really good player to have. Mitoma against Southampton away, I think that's also really nice. Targeting Southampton is always good to do, and Mitoma has been really good lately, scoring even last game week. He scored against Chelsea, so he's been really good lately. Kluivert, I've said it several times now, I think he's really, really good. And yeah, I might as well just talk about it now. He plays against Wolverhampton at home this time around. When he played Wolverhampton away earlier in the season, he scored a hat-trick of penalties, because Wolverhampton are the team that conceded the most penalties in the whole league. You could easily see Brentford, or Bournemouth, I should say, just like being all over Wolverhampton and getting some penalties potentially in this game. And I think Kluivert, for that reason, is going to be a really nice player to have this game week. Not only this game week, or actually I can get that into that when it comes to my own team. But for this game week at least, Wolverhampton conceded a lot of penalties. Jose Sa is terrible at conceding penalties and not really good at saving them either. They've conceded 7 penalties so far this season, saved 1 of them, and Kluivert could easily get a penalty here or score from open play, which he has done lately as well. So Kluivert just looks like a really good pick currently. I had him like number 4 in my wildcard draft this week. So yeah, I think he's looking really, really nice. Ethan Nwaneri as well against West Ham. I think that's a really nice fixture for him. He was so good against Leicester, and I could easily see him score a lot of goals against West Ham as well. And on the front, I think Isak is going to be good again against Nottingham Forest. I think that's a decent fixture still. Forest have looked a bit more shaky lately, even though they won 7-0 against Brighton. But before that, they lost massively against Bournemouth, and they also probably should have lost quite heavily against Fulham as well last game week. So I think there are some cracks there, and yes, Newcastle lost 4-0 to Man City, but they are playing at home now at St. James's Park, so I think Isak's going to come good in this game week, because he has been just in tremendous form this whole season, so I think Isak is still a really good pick to have this game week as well. Johan Wissa against Leicester as well. Finally, he has to get some points. He has been points dodging lately to a massive degree, even though he's gotten a lot of chances, and I think that could end now against Leicester, which is a really nice opponent for him as well. On the bench, Dubravka, the backup goalkeeper, I think is a really nice backup goalkeeper for like 4.3. Nottingham Forest at home is a pretty decent match for a clean sheet as well, even though they did score 7 goals, like I mentioned, against Brighton. But I think Newcastle at St. James is a tougher nut to crack than Brighton anywhere, basically. Beto as the backup striker. I did mention him in one of the managers of the week as a potential transfer. I think he's looking pretty good against Man United at home. I think that's a pretty good fixture for him. He's in fine form currently. He's playing his heart out and playing really well as a striker under David Moyes, and I think that's set to continue, especially with this really nice upcoming fixture. A bit of a revenge game for Moyes as well, playing against his former team in Man United. So I think Beto's going to be really good this game week. Kirkus, who was really tempted to have in the starting lineup as well, but I just preferred Pedro Porro as like the main or the third defender there. But Kirkus against Wolves could easily play offensively there and get some points attacking wise when it comes to goals or assists, or you can keep a clean sheet as we've seen Bournemouth do in the past. I think Bournemouth are pretty heavy favorites in that game, so I think Kirkus could do well. And then Mikolenko against Man United as well, who look pretty bad when it comes to scoring goals. They just have so many injuries, so I think Mikolenko is also a really nice option to have, and someone they could consider. Especially if you have him, I think he's like a good player to start as well, because he has a really good fixture there this game week. So yeah, that's basically the team in general. Really cheap team, no Palmer, no Haaland. Only have Salah here, so plenty of room to spare here. If you want to upgrade Mitoma to Palmer, for example, you can do that. If you want to upgrade Wissa to Haaland, you could probably do that as well. So there's plenty of options here, but considering Liverpool play Man City, I think it's like one of those game weeks where you don't really want to load up on either team. It's hard to know what's going to happen, apart from probably Salah scoring, because he does that every single week. So he's my favorite captaincy choice this week in general. So yeah, that's the free draft. Now, as I can recognize that my voice is sort of trembling a bit, I'm going to go through to my current plans for GW26 myself. And I think I'm pretty set on doing the Rodgers to Kluivert move. Like I mentioned, Kluivert, I think he has a really good chance of getting a penalty this week against Wolverhampton. And if he doesn't get it this week, next week in GW27, he plays Brighton, which is the team that concedes the second most penalties behind Wolverhampton. So I think Kluivert as a penalty taker just has a lot of avenues for points now. 2 really easy games against Wolves and Brighton, or like at least on paper, pretty easy games for Bournemouth at the moment, with 2 teams that really like to concede penalties. So I think Kluivert is looking really nice at getting a lot of FOMO from not having him in my team, and I have enough money in the bank to do Rodgers to Kluivert. And sadly, that's what's going to be on the thumbnail now. This would mean the end of my Game Week 1 team in total, because Rodgers has been there all the way from Game Week 1 all the way through to Game Week 26. I haven't sold him a single time this season. He's been really good to me. I've started him for a lot of his hauls, even though I missed his like big haul against Man City. That was the one big blemish. But the rest of his hauls this season, I've actually started him. And even though he hasn't really performed that well for me lately, he's just been a really nice player for me in general, and I love watching him play, so I'm going to be sad to see him go, but I think it has to be done to bring in Kluivert, because I really like Kluivert this week. The other transfer that I'm considering, and I might do on top of that move, is Gakpo to Marmoush. But honestly, like after watching City in the Champions League and watching how good Liverpool were, or not really how they haven't really been that good, but knowing how good Liverpool can be, I just don't think I want to do it currently, because Marmoush has some tough fixtures. I definitely want to consider him for Game Week 29 onwards. Before then, you have some tough fixtures, including the Liverpool game now. So I'm not completely sold, but I really like what I've seen from Marmoush. He takes set pieces, got a assist in the Champions League, hitting the crossbar from a free kick. He takes free kicks directly. He takes corners. He's really offensively minded. He scored a hat-trick not too long ago in FPL as well. So we know how good he can be, but it's just, I feel a bit iffy on doing it now. Maybe I'll do it next game week. Maybe I'll do it in a couple game weeks in Game Week 29. But I definitely want to get Marmoush at some point, but I don't think I want to do it right now. And I think also kind of just want to keep Gakpo until Game Week 28. I'm sort of like steadfast on Gakpo. I thought he was such a good pick, and he scored so many points for me against Ipswich. And then he got like 1 assist in the 2 games in Game Week 25. He got injured for Game Week 26 and didn't play either game. So I have a bit of a sour taste in my mouth from Gakpo, despite him being like good for me overall, considering he got that many points from Ipswich. So I kind of want to keep him for Game Week 28 against Southampton. Potentially get a lot of points in that game as well. So especially since he has been resting now the last few games, and probably will be able to play as a starter going forward. But yeah, I think my team is looking really, really strong in general. I recognize now that I have Mykolenko on my free hit team on my bench, and I also have him on my bench in my own team, with Trent and Munoz starting over him. And it's basically just like I fear Munoz getting plenty of points. I think probably Mykolenko gets more points than Munoz this week. But I think the ceiling for Munoz as like an attacking defender who can both get attacking returns and get clean sheets, I think I just prefer that as a starting player. Mykolenko is safer, but I just wouldn't feel good about benching Munoz in general, because yeah, he's been really, really good lately. So I have actually a really strong team. I quite like Castani as well in terms of my defenders. Gakpo, if he's healthy to play and if he starts against Man City, he's also really good. So I could potentially do a second transfer and bring in someone, maybe Dubravka as my backup goalkeeper and bench boost. Like I have thought about that as well, because I'm not going to be able to use my bench boost. I'm probably going to use assistant manager from game 31 through 33. So that means that game 33 can't be bench boosted. And then it's basically leaving the bench boost up for a single game week later on. So I am kind of tempted to do the bench boost, but I think I'm going to stay away from it and just hope that I get the best results, I guess, from my team. Also, just the Gakpo insecurity here. I have only 2 free transfers. I can't do Gakpo to Marmoush and do Fabianski to another goalkeeper, and it feels a bit like much to do Fabianski to a goalkeeper just to get a bench boostable team when I'm going to wildcard in game week 30 probably, and get like a bench boostable team from that point onwards anyway. So I have considered it, but I just have to bench some pretty good players. I just didn't feel like benching either Munoz or Cunha, who I had on the bench originally, but I've swapped them out. Gakpo because of his doubts for being in the Man City game mostly. And then Mykolenko and Castagna as like slightly less upside players than Munoz. Like I prefer to have defenders that can get both attacking returns and defensive returns, rather than those that are mostly reliant on clean sheet. So yeah, that's why I'm going with Munoz in the defense in general. So yeah. But my team in general, starting with the goalkeeper, Arrizabalaga against Wolves, I think that's a decent chance for a clean sheet. That's why I brought him in last game week, because I thought he was going to be good for the long-term future. Trent against Man City, can never bench Trent. Gabriel against West Ham, he has a really ephemeral fixture, so especially can't bench him for this game week, but also you can never bench Gabriel really, because he has that attacking threat as well. And I kind of don't want to bench Munoz, seeing as he has like a decent fixture against Fulham. Fulham don't really score that many goals. So I could see a clean sheet. I could see some attacking returns there from Munoz, so I quite like him. Salah is my captain. When it comes to captaincy, I'm pretty dead set on Salah. I said that this already a couple game weeks back, that I wasn't going to go away from Salah Captain. I was just going to captain him for the rest of the season, basically. He started off with 2 blanks in a row after I pledged to do that. But after that, he's been absolutely electric again. So yeah, Salah is just amazing. I'm just not going to challenge him. I'm just going to keep it on Salah unless there's like a blank or a double game week where he doesn't play or anything like that. which is going to come up eventually now. Game week 32, 33, and 29 are 3 game weeks like that, where he's either not playing in 20, like in game week 29, he's not playing. In game 32 and 33, we're going to have some double game week players that will be preferred as captain options instead. But other than that, I'm going to captain Salah every single game week that I have him, basically. Palmer against Aston Villa. Feel decently about that game as well. Aston Villa do concede quite a lot of goals, so I could see Palmer getting some points there, but I'm also not too confident in him for this game. But it is the Southampton-Leicester game following that. That's really enticing with Palmer. And Boehm against Leicester, had him in the free hit team, so obviously I really like him as a prospect. Rodgers most likely becomes Kluivert, who I really like, and I also really like Dango. I really enjoy having the double up in the Bournemouth midfield, because I feel like all those players can get points. Like we saw this past game week when Dango, Kluivert, and Semenyo all got points from just like a 2-0 win or whatever they had. So yeah, I really like Dango. I really like Kluivert, so I'm pretty excited to have both of them going forward. Isak, who I had in my free hit team, pretty excited and happy about him as well. I have him as my vice captain currently, but I think I would actually put Kluivert as my vice captain because I prefer him slightly over Isak as like a differential pick. If you want to go away from Salah as captain, I would choose either Isak or Kluivert, and most likely Kluivert, honestly, because of like the totality of everything, and Wolves just being a pretty bad team in general. But speaking of Wolves, I do have Cunha as well. Did bench his 9 points. He's that type of player that can pop up and score a couple goals from out of nowhere, basically. So I just wanted to start him as well in this team. So he's also in the starting lineup, despite playing against Rizabalaga, basically, and sort of being like a thing where I can't get the maximum points, because obviously either Cunha will score or Rizabalaga will score. They won't get points at the same time, because that would also require a penalty miss or penalty save from Rizabalaga, and that would mean Cunha would miss a penalty on top of everything else. So I don't want that to happen either. So yeah, just hedging my bets, I guess. If Cunha doesn't score, I think Rizabalaga will keep a clean sheet, and if Cunha does score, I get a lot of points from a player that not that many people have currently. So pretty happy with that in general as like hedging my bets sort of thing, even though I prefer to try to maximize points and not have players playing directly against each other. But sometimes it's just unavoidable, and you just have to face it, I guess. On my bench, Fabianski, who's like a dud. I'd said I could change him if I want to do bench boost, but he's probably just going to stick there until I wildcard. Gakpo against City is a doubt, so I don't think he's going to play more than 60 minutes anyway, so I think it's pretty easy to bench him, honestly. But I am putting him first bench because I am remembering that I benched Cunha third bench last time around. Didn't have my attacker as my first bench option, and that sort of pained me last game week, so I'm not going to do that mistake again. I'm going to have Gakpo first bench. But I really like Mykolenko as the second bench, and that's my first defensive bench option in case one of the defenders doesn't play. And then Castagne as well against Crystal Palace at home. I think it's a decent fixture. I think that could easily be a 0-0 game as well between Palace and Fulham. So maybe Castagne and Munoz will get points, both of them, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much my team. I've only used one chip so far. That's triple captain in game 25. 220k. I think that's decent at this point of the season. I wish it was higher because it was 47k like whatever 6, 7, 8 game weeks ago, and it's gone downhill since that time. But hopefully now I'm pretty well set up for the future. I haven't used my assistant managership either, which is going to help me a lot going forward, or at least between game week 31 and 33 when I'm most likely going to use it. And I think my team is pretty well set up for the future as well, with the Bournemouth players coming in now. Cunha already in the team. Munoz is looking good, easily benchable. I have a good plan for game 29 to have 11 starting players most likely. So yeah, I'm in a pretty good spot in general. 2 free transfers as well. Probably just going to use the one out of the 2 with Rodgers to Kluivert. But I might be tempted to get Marmoush as well. But if I do, I would have to bench someone again, and I don't really want to do that. I'm pretty happy with benching Gakpo for this game week, so I think I'm just going to stick with just the Rodgers to Kluivert move. And that's going to be it for game 26 for me. And that's going to be it for this video as well. I hope you enjoyed it. A lot of things to get through. I've been talking a mile a minute to try to get it under like 40 minutes or so, even though there's a lot to talk about this game week. I hope you have a good time this game week as well. If you're on a manager thing, especially if you have any queries about what you want to do with your assistant manager, please let me know down below in the comment section. I can try to help you out. But in general, I think if I had Slot, I think I would just keep him. I think Man City is a pretty easy game, or not easy game. It's obviously not an easy game away to Man City, but I think it could be a game where Liverpool could get like a 3 or 4-0 type of game. So yeah, I would just keep Slot, I think, if I had him. If I had Emery, I probably would sell him for Glasner, but it depends how many free transfers you have and stuff. You saw that with previous, like the managers of the week and stuff. I wouldn't really mind sticking with Emery against Chelsea either, because Chelsea are looking pretty bad currently, and it is played at Villa Park, so I think that's also a decent manager. So I probably would just stick. I don't think there's that much upside, but I think Glasner is probably my favorite one if you want to chase the upside with the table bonus manager in general. Not a fan of the Arteta moves and stuff like that, because the upside just isn't there. Using like a transfer is worth 4 points, so if you win with Arteta, you get like 10 points maximum probably. So that's already just like maybe like 6 points extra potentially, like at best. I just don't like the upside of doing a move like that. So yeah, those are my thoughts about the assistant manager finally. And that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. We're about to approach 40 minutes right there. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching again for the third time now. I'll see you next time. Subscribe if you haven't already. Bye bye.